Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything the ancient prophets warned about is beginning to unfold. What if the wars, the disasters, and the rising tensions across the world are not random events, but signs written thousands of years ago? What if the final chapter of human history has already begun? For centuries, people have wondered how the world will end. Philosophers, historians, and theologians have searched for answers. Yet long before modern civilization existed, the Bible recorded powerful visions about the future of humanity. Hidden in its pages are mysterious prophecies about global turmoil, cosmic disturbances, and a final turning point in human history. These prophecies appear in ancient texts such as the Book of Daniel, the Book of Ezekiel, and most dramatically in the Book of Revelation. According to the Bible, these writings are not simply stories or symbols meant to confuse readers. They are warnings, messages, and promises about the destiny of the world. At the center of these prophecies are the teachings of Jesus Christ, who spoke directly about the signs that would appear before the end of the age. But to understand the final prophecy, we must begin long before the modern world existed, long before global empires rose and fell, and long before humanity ever imagined the possibility of worldwide crisis. The story of the end actually begins thousands of years ago with visions given to ancient prophets. More than 2,000 years ago, a man named Daniel lived during a time when powerful empires controlled vast territories of the world. Daniel was known as a wise man and interpreter of dreams, but one night he received visions that would puzzle scholars and readers for centuries. In the Book of Daniel, the prophet described a series of kingdoms that would rise and fall across history. These kingdoms appeared in symbolic visions as powerful beasts, each representing an empire that would dominate the world for a time. According to Daniel's vision, history itself was not random. It was unfolding according to a divine plan. Kingdom after kingdom would rise, expand, and eventually collapse. Yet Daniel's prophecy did not end with those empires. He also saw a mysterious final stage of history, a time when global power would become concentrated and when humanity would approach a decisive moment. What made Daniel's vision even more mysterious was a message given to him at the end of the prophecy. He was told that some parts of the vision were sealed until the time of the end. In other words, the full meaning would not be understood until humanity approached the final chapter of history. For centuries, readers wondered what that meant. Many believed the prophecies were symbolic reflections of ancient politics. Others believed they were predictions of events far beyond Daniel's lifetime. Yet Daniel was not the only prophet who saw glimpses of the future. Another prophet named Ezekiel also received powerful visions that described dramatic events affecting nations and the entire world. In the Book of Ezekiel, there are descriptions of large alliances of nations gathering together in conflict. Ezekiel spoke of a time when powerful forces would rise and confront one another in a struggle that seemed larger than any war humanity had previously experienced. His writings describe fear spreading among nations and people searching desperately for stability. Yet Ezekiel's visions also contained something else. He saw moments when divine intervention would change the course of events in ways that human power could not control. These ancient prophets were writing long before modern technology, before international politics as we know it, and before global communication connected every corner of the earth. Yet their descriptions of widespread unrest, global alliances, and rising tensions feel surprisingly familiar to modern readers. But perhaps the most direct warnings about the future did not come from Daniel or Ezekiel. Centuries later, they came from Jesus himself. During his ministry, Jesus spoke openly about the future of the world. His followers were curious and sometimes anxious about what would happen next. One day they asked him a question that has echoed through history ever since. In the Gospel of Matthew, they asked, "What will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" Instead of giving a simple date or timeline, Jesus described a pattern of events that would unfold across the world. He spoke about wars and rumors of wars. He warned that nations would rise against nations and kingdoms against kingdoms. He mentioned famines, earthquakes, and widespread instability affecting many regions of the earth. But then he said something that made the prophecy even more intriguing. He explained that these events would only be the beginning. He compared them to the early stages of birth pains. Just as contractions grow stronger and more frequent before a child is born, the signs of the end would increase as history moved closer to its final moment. This idea has fascinated readers for centuries. It suggests that the end would not arrive suddenly without warning. Instead, there would be a gradual build-up of events that signal humanity is approaching a turning point. Some generations throughout history believed they were witnessing those signs. During times of war, plague, or political upheaval, people often wondered whether the final chapter of history had arrived. Yet the prophecy continued to remain mysterious. One of the most powerful visions of the end appears in the Book of Revelation, written by the Apostle John. According to the account, John experienced a vision that transported him into a scene in heaven. There, he saw something extraordinary. In the hand of God was a scroll sealed with 7 seals. This scroll represented the unfolding future of the world. But there was a problem. No one in heaven or on earth seemed worthy to open the scroll and reveal what it contained. John described a moment of deep emotion when it appeared that the mysteries of the future might remain sealed forever. Then the vision changed. A symbolic figure described as the Lamb stepped forward. This figure represented Jesus Christ. Only he was worthy to open the seals and reveal what would happen next. As each seal was opened, a new stage of the prophecy began to unfold. The first 4 seals released figures that later became known as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The first rider symbolized conquest and the expansion of power. The second rider represented war and conflict spreading across nations. The third rider symbolized famine and economic hardship, when resources become scarce and societies struggle to survive. The fourth rider represented death, the ultimate consequence of chaos and suffering. Throughout history, these images have captured the imagination of readers and artists. Many people have asked whether these riders represent literal events or symbolic forces that repeatedly affect human civilization. What makes the prophecy powerful is that these themes appear again and again throughout history. Empires rise, wars erupt, economies struggle, and societies face moments of great uncertainty. Another fascinating aspect of biblical prophecy is its description of a world searching desperately for stability. The prophets described a time when humanity would become increasingly connected, yet deeply divided. Nations would compete for influence. Alliances would shift. Political systems would face growing pressure. In times like these, history shows that people often look for leaders who promise to restore order. Some biblical scholars believe that this environment could eventually lead to the rise of a powerful global figure described in prophecy. According to interpretations of the Book of Daniel and the Book of Revelation, this leader would appear during a time of crisis and would seem to offer solutions that bring temporary peace. At first, the world might welcome such leadership, believing that stability has finally returned. Yet the Bible warns that appearances can sometimes be deceptive. What begins as a promise of order could eventually reveal deeper challenges for humanity. The prophets also described unusual signs appearing beyond the earth itself. Several passages of Scripture mention dramatic disturbances in the heavens. These descriptions include the sun darkening, the moon appearing like blood, and stars falling from the sky. Readers have debated the meaning of these passages for centuries. Some interpret them as symbolic language describing dramatic changes in human society. Others believe they could refer to cosmic events that affect the earth directly. Regardless of the interpretation, these signs are described as powerful reminders that history is moving toward a decisive moment. The world would reach a point when humanity realizes that the future cannot continue exactly as it always has. Throughout history, people have tried to calculate when these events might occur. Some believed the end would arrive during ancient wars. Others believed it during times of global conflict in more recent centuries. Yet the Bible repeatedly emphasizes that the exact timing remains unknown. Even Jesus said that no one knows the exact day or hour. However, he also explained that people would be able to recognize the season, much like a person noticing dark clouds gathering before a storm. Perhaps the most intriguing part of the prophecy is what happens after the early signs appear. According to the Book of Revelation, the opening of the seals is only the beginning. After them come a series of events symbolized by 7 trumpets and 7 bowls. Each stage introduces new challenges, new warnings, and new moments that push humanity closer to the final turning point. Eventually, the prophecy describes a moment when the nations of the world gather in a confrontation often referred to as Armageddon. But the story does not end with destruction alone. The Bible describes the end not simply as a collapse of the world, but as a transformation of history itself. Before that transformation occurs, humanity must pass through a period when the signs become impossible to ignore. A time when people begin to ask deeper questions about the future and about the meaning of human existence. This is where the mystery deepens. Because the final prophecy is not only about the end of one era, it is also about the beginning of something entirely new. And in the next part of this story, we will explore the dramatic events that lead toward the final conflict described in prophecy and the hope that the Bible presents beyond the end of the world. As the ancient prophecies continue to unfold, the Bible describes a moment when the tension across the world reaches a level humanity has never experienced before. The early warnings, the signs in nature, the conflicts among nations, and the instability within societies all begin to converge into something much larger. According to the prophetic visions recorded in the Book of Revelation, the opening of the first seals was only the beginning of a much greater sequence of events. After the seals come a new stage of the prophecy, symbolized by the sounding of 7 trumpets. In ancient times, a trumpet was often used as a signal. It could announce the arrival of a king, warn of approaching danger, or call people to prepare for an important event. In the prophetic imagery of the Bible, these trumpets represent warnings that echo across the earth, each one signaling that humanity is moving closer to a decisive turning point. The first trumpet introduces a scene of disruption affecting the natural world. The vision describes dramatic disturbances involving the land and the environment. Whether interpreted symbolically or literally, the message points toward a period when the stability of the earth itself appears shaken. The second trumpet introduces changes involving the seas, another reminder that the forces of nature play a role in the unfolding story. The third trumpet shifts the focus toward the waters that sustain life, highlighting how essential resources can become fragile during times of global crisis. By the time the fourth trumpet sounds, the vision expands beyond the earth to include the heavens themselves. The sun, moon, and stars appear affected in ways that capture the imagination of readers. These scenes are not presented merely to inspire fear, but to emphasize the magnitude of the moment. The world is moving toward a climax that touches every aspect of life, nature, society, and even the cosmos. Yet the prophecy does not only describe disasters, it also speaks about human choices. Throughout history, people have faced moments when their decisions shaped the future of entire nations. The biblical narrative suggests that the end of the age will be no different. humanity will continue making choices about power, justice, truth, and compassion. These choices influence the direction of events as history moves toward its conclusion. In the prophetic visions, there is also a description of growing deception and confusion. During periods of uncertainty, people often search for leaders who promise clarity and solutions. The Bible describes the appearance of a powerful figure during the final stage of history. In interpretations of the Book of Daniel and the Book of Revelation, this figure gains influence during a time when the world is longing for stability. At first, the leadership may appear to offer peace and unity. Agreements may be formed, conflicts may seem to calm, and the world might believe that a new era of order has arrived. However, the prophecy warns that appearances can sometimes hide deeper realities. As time passes, the true nature of power begins to reveal itself. Tensions rise again, and the promises that once inspired hope begin to unravel. This moment marks the transition into what many readers of the Bible refer to as the Great Period of Trial. It is described as a time when humanity faces profound challenges that test faith, character, and perseverance. The prophets did not describe this era simply as a time of destruction, but as a moment when the deepest questions about truth and loyalty come to the surface. In the midst of this turmoil, the visions recorded in the Book of Revelation introduce another set of symbols known as the 7 bowls. These bowls represent the final stage of warnings before the ultimate confrontation between the forces of good and evil. The imagery becomes intense and dramatic, portraying a world where every system, political, economic, and social, faces the consequences of long-standing corruption and injustice. As these events unfold, the prophecy describes the gathering of nations for a final conflict. This moment is often called Armageddon, a term that has become widely recognized even outside religious discussions. In the biblical narrative, Armageddon represents more than a battlefield. It symbolizes the culmination of human history's struggle between competing visions of power and righteousness. The gathering of nations reflects the reality that the choices made by leaders and societies eventually lead to decisive outcomes. Yet the prophecy emphasizes that the final outcome is not determined solely by human strength. According to the vision in the Book of Revelation, the climax of history involves divine intervention. The narrative describes the return of Jesus Christ, portrayed as a victorious king who brings justice and restores order. This moment represents the turning point when the cycle of conflict and corruption finally comes to an end. For many readers, this part of the prophecy is not merely about judgment, but about restoration. The Bible presents the end of the age as the closing of one chapter and the beginning of another. After the final conflict, the vision continues with a description of renewal. The old systems that cause suffering and division are replaced with a new order characterized by justice and peace. One of the most hopeful passages appears near the end of the Book of Revelation, where the vision describes the arrival of a new heaven and a new earth. In this renewed creation, the struggles that defined human history no longer dominate the world. The imagery speaks of a place where sorrow and pain no longer have the final word. For believers, this promise represents the ultimate fulfillment of the story that began thousands of years earlier with the prophets. Throughout history, interpretations of these prophecies have varied. Some people understand them as literal predictions of future events. Others view them as symbolic representations of the ongoing struggle between good and evil within human civilization. Regardless of interpretation, the message behind the prophecy remains powerful. It reminds humanity that history has direction and meaning. The challenges and conflicts that appear overwhelming today are part of a larger narrative that moves toward resolution. The Bible encourages readers not to focus only on fear or uncertainty, but also on hope and transformation. The story of the end is also the story of renewal. When the ancient prophets first recorded their visions, they were speaking to generations who could not imagine the complexity of the modern world. Yet their messages continue to resonate because they address universal questions about justice, responsibility, and the future of humanity. The final prophecy invites each generation to reflect on its choices and its values. It asks whether humanity will pursue peace, truth, and compassion, or continue repeating the patterns of conflict that have shaped so much of history. In that sense, the prophecy is not only about distant events in the future, it is also about the present moment and the decisions people make every day. As we look at the world around us, the ancient words recorded in the Book of Daniel, the Book of Ezekiel, and the Book of Revelation continue to spark curiosity and reflection. Are the events of our time part of the pattern the prophets described, or are they reminders that humanity must remain vigilant and wise? The answer may depend on how each generation responds to the challenges it faces. The final prophecy ultimately points toward a future where justice, truth, and peace prevail. For many readers, that promise is the most powerful message of all. It reminds us that even in the midst of uncertainty, the story of humanity is moving toward a purpose greater than any single moment in history. And according to the Bible, the final chapter is not defined by darkness, but by the arrival of a new beginning. Thank you for taking this journey with me through one of the most fascinating and mysterious themes in the Bible, the final prophecy about the future of our world. The ancient visions recorded in the Book of Daniel, the Book of Ezekiel, and the Book of Revelation have inspired generations to reflect on the meaning of history, the choices we make, and the hope that lies beyond uncertainty. No matter how one interprets these prophecies, they remind us of something important. Our actions, our faith, and our compassion toward others matter more than ever. The Bible encourages us not to live in fear of the future, but to live with wisdom, faith, and love as we look forward to the promises spoken by Jesus Christ. If this video helped you understand these ancient prophecies in a deeper way, please consider supporting the channel by subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it with others who are interested in Bible history and prophecy. And I would love to hear your thoughts as well. What do you think these prophecies mean for our world today? May peace, wisdom, and hope guide your life wherever you are watching from. May God bless you and your family, and may His truth continue to shine in your heart. Thank you again for watching, and until our next journey into the mysteries of the Bible, stay curious, stay faithful, and keep seeking the truth. Amen.